This is the successor to one of the most impactful crossovers in the Philippines in the last 3 years. It's one of the best-selling, one of the most high-tech. It was my pick for the best crossover of 2020 and 2021. The new territory is now bigger, more premium, and more high-tech. But it's also more expensive now. There's also a lot more competition. The top-spec Territory Titanium X sells for 1.6 million pesos. Is it still as relevant as before? And is it still worth your money? Let's find out. Recently, we got to take the Ford Territory on a 2-day trip to the second summer capital of the Philippines, Tagaytay. We got to test it on the twisties. On the highway, we got to test its ADAS. Now, the first-gen Ford Territory was the first non-luxury car that I drove with stop-and-go adaptive cruise control. And it just boggled my mind that it was only selling for 1.3 billion pesos. Back when it was launched in 2020, it stood head and shoulders over everything, even similarly priced Chinese brands in terms of features. The Ford Territory has grown up quite a bit since 2020. And the size difference is immediately obvious. It's longer, it's taller. Curiously, it's almost the same width as the previous gen Territory, but since it no longer has the wide fender flares of the previous generation, it fills its dimensions better. Not only has it grown up in size, it also has grown up in terms of styling. Gone are the bulging fender flares and the sharp upswept lines of the previous gen Ford Territory. We now get more subtle and more subdued styling. Its sides are flatter and it gets a more square-shaped cross-section. The perfect shape for maximizing interior space. Now, the differences on the outside between the two variants are very minor. The main cosmetic difference on the outside are the wheels. The Titanium X comes with 19s, while the Titanium comes with smaller 18s. I think the upgrade to 19s makes a huge difference in the look of the Territory, as they make the Titanium X look better proportioned and less top-heavy. At the front, the Titanium X and the Titanium look very similar. Like the Titanium, your headlights are down here. These are LED headlamps, and your LED door Ls are up here. Now, one difference between the Titanium X and the Titanium is that the Titanium X comes with ADAS. So this has a radar unit over there. And one last difference that would be noticeable on the outside is that the Titanium X comes with a powered liftgate. Both variants get 448 liters of cargo space with a second row up. You can more than double that space if you fold the second row, but you don't get a flat flooring. We definitely have enough space here for our sponsor for today. Introducing the Atto Sport Mobility Scooter. The world's most innovative mobility scooter. It folds into a small suitcase size and it has wheels so you can move it around like a trolley. It separates into two parts. It has leather seats and grips, an illuminated LCD dashboard, enhanced lighting for extra visibility. You can install optional armrests. It's perfect for seniors as it's easy to lift and unfolds in seconds. It has a maximum speed of 10 kph, shock-absorbing, flat-free tires, high ground clearance, advanced braking system, be free to travel anywhere, land, sea, or air. It has 20 kilometers of continuous driving range. Engineered with flair, designed with passion for performance. Be active, be free, be yourself. Atto Sport, moving life. I think this interior is definitely an improvement over the previous generation Ford Territory. So this top-of-the-line Titanium X variant comes with a cream and gray color scheme, while the lower Titanium variant comes with a blue and gray color scheme. This cream interior definitely looks a lot more luxurious, although I can imagine that it can be a bit more difficult to maintain. Definitely you shouldn't be wearing dirty pants when sitting here. Now you get a really good sense of the width of the vehicle when you're inside the car. You have a lot of horizontal space here, and the way the dashboard is designed with its long and straight lines really emphasize the width of the vehicle. Everything looks and feels solid, like nothing here creaks. Oh, that is quite solid. There's a bit of give there, but try this on a lot of Japanese cars in this price bracket and you'll get a lot more movement. The doors feel heavy and they have that satisfying thunk to them. Now in terms of materials, almost everything that you can touch is covered in soft touch materials. Like the top of the dashboard is soft touch. This right here is leather wrapped. This is soft touch right here. This is hard plastic, but this is leather wrapped. The armrest is leather wrapped, and you get perforated leather seats. The driver's seat is power adjustable, while the passenger seat is manually adjustable. You don't get seat memory settings. By the way, the Titanium X comes with a seat ventilation function, which you don't get on the Titanium. The steering wheel is leather wrapped. It tilts and it also telescopes. Now over here you have this very wide looking screen. It's actually two screens right next to each other, but the way they're connected, it's almost seamless, so it looks like one very wide screen. Over here you have a 12-inch infotainment screen. This comes with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which you also get on the Titanium, but this also gets a 360 camera, which you don't get on the Titanium. Now, one of my complaints about the previous gen Ford Territory was that all the aircon controls were on the screen. Now they fixed that somehow on this generation, but not quite. You get some buttons over here for your fan speed, your ventilation, your auto climate control settings, but they are not technically physical buttons, they're capacitive buttons, but at least they're now separate from the screen. This also gets a wireless phone charger. By the way, this has dual zone climate control. The Territory now gets a rotary shifter. And over here you have your controls for your infotainment screen, which includes a volume knob, thankfully. This also has an electronic parking brake without a hold. The glove box is pretty decently sized. It is dampened, and that just feels very smooth. The way it goes down, it's not too slow, but it still feels dampened. It just feels very premium. Over here you have two cup holders. Over here you have plenty of storage underneath the center armrest. That's actually more storage than the Ford Everest. And you also have storage underneath the center console. And you'll also find your USB ports there and your 12-volt outlet. Now for this generation, only the top-of-the-line Titanium X comes with a panoramic sunroof. Now on the previous generation Ford Territory, both the base model and the top-of-the-line came with a panoramic sunroof. In this generation, only the Titanium X comes with a panoramic sunroof. And that may be a major consideration for some. It definitely helps improve the ambiance inside the cabin. And with a cream-colored interior like this, having a panoramic sunroof just brings out the color of the interior. Okay, so the Ford Territory is one of the most spacious crossovers in this class. I mean, look at how much legroom I have. I can just stretch like that. That's more than 1 tipa of knee room over here. That's probably a foot of knee room. Headroom is not bad either. I have about 3 inches of headroom. If I sit at the center, I'll have more headroom because of the panoramic sunroof. In terms of toys, the rear passengers get 2 air vents, 1 USB port, a foldable center armrest which is leather wrapped and nicely padded, and this also gets 2 cup holders. The flooring, by the way, is completely flat, and this center console over here does not eat a lot of space for the center passenger, so 3 people can sit here comfortably, and maybe even 4 can fit in a pinch. Now, for those who have kids, this has ISOFIX tethers over here and also over here. We had enough territories in our convoy to cover a significant territory. We set off early in the morning from Pasig. We were set for Tagaytay and we chose the long and scenic route. Now, we could have taken Skyway and then SLEX, but we chose the longer and windier path, thankfully. We drove through the winding roads of Rizal, absorbed the beautiful scenery, and we got to fully test the new Ford Territory's driving dynamics. Now, one thing that I can say about the new Territory is that it's more engaging to drive than the previous one, especially on twisty roads like this. It still has a 1.5-liter turbocharged engine, but it now puts out 158 horsepower and 248 Newton-meters of torque. That's 17 more horsepower and 23 more Newton-meters of torque compared to the previous Territory. But more importantly, the transmission is now a 7-speed dual clutch. I think this is one of the better dual clutch transmissions in the market, but in stop-and-go traffic, it can still feel a bit jerky if you're not used to it. When you drive it more aggressively though, it feels a lot more direct than the previous generation CVT. When you give it some gas, you don't get that rubber band effect that you get on CVTs. It feels like your throttle pedal has a more direct connection to the wheels, if that makes sense. The Territory is much bigger now, and you do feel that size when you're driving the car, but it still doesn't sway as much when you're driving it on twisty roads like this. If you're coming from the previous Territory, you might notice right away that the steering wheel feels a bit heavier now. It doesn't take a lot of effort to turn the wheel, but it now gives you better feedback and you get a better sense of the vehicle's size when you're driving it. The almost 4-hour trip was quite tiring. Luckily, we had a pretty awesome place to spend the evening before driving back home the next day. And the resort is a 7.2 hectare property with Instagrammable scenery, good food, and good service. The Ford Territory has full ADAS. It can sort of drive itself, emphasis on sort of. Right now, we have adaptive cruise turned on, and as you can see, my feet are not doing anything. I'm not stepping on the gas and I'm not stepping on the brakes, and the vehicle is automatically speeding up and slowing down on its own. The adaptive cruise of the Ford Territory works in stop and go traffic, like what we have right now. It'll come to a complete stop and it'll automatically resume when the vehicle in front of you moves. So it's definitely a huge help when you're stuck in traffic like this. You get to rest your right foot. Just make sure that you always have your attention on the road and your foot next to the pedal so you can easily intervene if you have to. Okay, so unlike the previous gen Ford Territory, even if you're stopped for more than 3 seconds, it still automatically resumes. So one thing that's new on the new Ford Territory is lane keep assist. The previous gen didn't have this, so it automatically steers the car to keep you within your lane. So right now we have adaptive cruise turned on and we have lane keep assist turned on. As you can see, my feet are not doing anything and my hands are just hovering over the wheel. So far it's doing a good job on straight lines. Sort of, it's kind of veering to the left. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be as precise as the lane keep assist of the M2. It tends to bounce from line to line. Okay, let's just try it here. Okay, I don't trust it here. See? It's just gonna go straight. Yeah, I mean, most lane keep assist systems are not that reliable anyway. They're just there in case you have to briefly take your hands off the wheel. They're not intended to be used for autopilot. But adaptive cruise is very reliable. As you can see, my feet are not doing anything, and they haven't been doing anything for a while. Okay, I don't trust it here. Oh, it's turning. Oh yeah, it's not. Both the Titanium and Titanium X now come with Ford's improved active park assist. The new system can now park the vehicle almost unassisted. You don't have to shift from drive to reverse like the previous generation, and you don't have to step on the brakes. Everything is automated. Now, it's not a feature that I would use often or at all, but it's definitely a neat party trick. The Territory feels like a more expensive car to drive. It's very quiet inside the cabin. Ride quality is pretty good. The chassis feels stiff. Nothing creaks when you drive over uneven surfaces. Fuel economy is okay for its size. I got about 9 kpl in the city and about 14.5 kpl on the highway. It does have a large 60-liter fuel tank though, so you don't have to visit the gas station so often. The Titanium X sells for 1.6 million pesos, and the base model Titanium sells for 1,335,000. Now that's a price difference of 264,000 pesos, and for that price difference, you get a panoramic sunroof and ADAS on the Titanium X. The previous Gen 4 Territory was one of the most impactful crossovers in the last 3 years because it showed that a mainstream brand could offer so much at such a low price. Even if you take the brand out of the equation, it outclassed its competitors, even Chinese brands, in terms of features. It forced the competition to step up, and now its features like ADAS are pretty much standard for most Chinese crossovers priced at 1.3 million pesos. The new Ford Territory doesn't quite destroy its competition in the way that the previous one did, but it has secured its legacy, has acquired a following, and for that, I think it can charge a bit more. Besides, even if it doesn't outclass Chinese crossovers anymore, it still outclasses a lot of its Japanese and Korean competitors in terms of interior quality and features.